This gospel passage has been a source of conversation, and some might even say controversy, because we've always come to believe that Jesus was an only child. So who are these brothers and sisters that they're speaking of? Well, you have to keep in mind that in tribal cultures, the terms brothers or sisters are used more in a broader sense. They could be cousins, they could be second cousins, they could be cousins once removed. But this idea of brother or sister brings about, and the point of the gospel is to bring about a familial relationship, a relationship in which we are bound, in our case, not by biology or blood, but by baptism. It is through our baptism that we are brothers and sisters in the Lord. Now, I grew up as the youngest of 5 in an Irish Catholic family. I had 3 older brothers and an older sister. And then as I got older, I belonged to various sports teams and theatrical groups that had a bond among them, almost like brothers and sisters. And I played rugby when I was in college, and there was a fraternity there for sure. And then as I entered the seminary, my brother seminarians and I, as we would refer to each other, had that bond. And of course now, for the last 22 years, I have many brother priests, to which we refer ourselves. And this sense of brotherhood is a very real one, that's as real as the bloodlines that I have with my siblings, with my brothers and my sister, my biological brothers and sister. And these oftentimes are, at times, because of our waxing and waning in relationships, can be even closer sometimes than an actual brother or sister, a biological brother or sister. Because the connection that we have as Catholic Christians is certainly something that goes beyond blood. It is deeper, really, than blood. They say blood is thicker than water. Well, I'd say that baptism is the waters of baptism is thicker than blood, in the sense that the bond that we have is strong because of the fact that it's rooted not in this world, but in the kingdom and in the person of Jesus Christ. And because of that, it goes beyond just mere obligation. Jesus asks, who are my mother and my brothers? Well, whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother, he says. And it is that through that doing the will of God that we have that familial bond, that we are brothers and sisters of the Lord. In my parish communities in which I have served, I often refer to those communities as a family of faith. And it is a very real family in as much as a biological family, because of those baptismal roots that we share, because of the opportunities that God gives to us to be there for one another, to support one another, to strengthen one another, to challenge one another, and to walk with one another, doing the will of God. As a people of faith, we come to recognize that it is Almighty God who calls us to this relationship, that we are rooted with Jesus in a sense of brotherhood, of sisterhood, of care that we would for a biological brother or sister that we have. He has care for us as sons and daughters of the living God. And we, in turn, are called to have care for all who come into our circle, who cross our paths, in whom we converse, with whom we interact each and every day. And these can be challenging relationships because of the fact that we forget sometimes of that bond. We forget, we think to ourselves, well, they're not related to me really, So do I really have to care for them? Well, yes, we do, because of the fact that it is Almighty God who calls us to care for our brothers and sisters, to see them as brothers and sisters in the Lord, and to see all of us as children of the living God. Indeed, as communities are formed, as the early communities of faith were formed, they were made up of different tribes, but they were united in their bond of worship to Almighty God. We, in that same way, by virtue of our baptism, are rooted to one another, are bound to one another, in a bond that really does go beyond this world. It goes beyond the physical realities of this world, for the bond that we have is rooted in God's eternal kingdom of love and of peace. May we, as the people of faith, come to recognize the opportunity God gives to us each and every day to secure those bonds of love, to do the will of God, and in doing so, of recognizing our place as brothers and sisters to the Lord.